Thank you to our sponsors of this episode, Marshwear Clothing. Comfortable and stylish clothes rooted in the marshes of Charleston. I can get behind that. Mex One Coastal Cantina, the best tacos and margaritas in town. And Thomas Brothers Productions. Wait, did your own video production company just sponsor the podcast? On today's episode, Wilds Drake, a South Carolina local, a stylish yet hard-charging surfer, and a very talented craftsman. Wilds and his brother Jordan started Drake Boatworks, where they build the most technologically advanced and badass poling skiffs ever built. If you're into boats, then they really need no introduction. And if you're not, you're about to wish you had one. Wilds gave us the tour of his facility, the process of how these boats are made, and a peek into his Drake X adventure truck that he also talks about how he built. We are truly fans, so this was really cool to hear how this all came about. Enjoy. Mex One Coastal Cantina. It seriously is my spot for incredible tacos and margaritas. So when they wanted to support the podcast, I couldn't have been happier. My go-to has always been the Bangin' Shrimp Bowl. It truly is the perfect surf-inspired beach bar. They're locally owned and always in support of the surf community. They always have surf videos on, so I feel right at home. Everything from tacos, quesadillas, Baja bowls, fresh salads, cold beer, and margaritas, everything is delicious. With 3 locations in Charleston, Mex One has you covered.
Marshwear. Clothing inspired by the need for versatility and style. Those wave chasing, flats pulling, field loving, campfire gatherers. For the doers, adventurers, and unconventional. Those who live by the highs and lows of the tides. For those in pursuit of good times.
The leadoff question is, if you're gonna go load your truck up, like what are you psyched on right now? Are you gonna go surfing or fishing, or what have you been up to lately?
The big truck?
Yeah.
Surfing. Surfing's always number one.
Yeah.
It's always been number one. Like the fishing and the mountain biking and snow, that's all second to me. The surfing has always been number one.
Yeah.
Mostly because we get so many few days that the waves are good. Like I'd rather just go surf when I can surf, and then I can fish or do the other stuff on the other days. I'd rather go surf.
Yeah. And from here, you're typically going to the Outer Banks or Wrightsville, or do you get home much?
Probably. I'd say a good bit of all of it. The Outer Banks is like 4.5 hours for me, and then home, Charleston's like a little over 2, and then Wrightsville Beach is like 2 hours. So I can kind of pick and choose and see where the waves are going to be good and go. Yeah. It's hard to beat surfing at home.
Right. I know. And luckily, we got a few days recently.
Yeah, it's been good. It was a good fall at home. It's just hard to beat surfing at home with all your buddies and hooting and hollering. I'd rather go surf at home than most anywhere else.
I guess we'll take it back to the start a little bit. Where did your passion for the water and building with your hands come from?
I guess we can take it way back then. So I guess the first part of that was like, my dad got me a John boat for my 7th birthday, like a 12-foot John boat with a 9.9 Johnson. We still have it, it's still here. So that was like my introduction. And with my dad and the boats and stuff, it was kind of, we were given the respect that we earned. So at a young age, we were in the boat, on the water, like skiing, wakeboarding, anything around the water. No fishing, but skiing, wakeboarding, and then through that, through skiing and wakeboarding, we got into the surfing. That was a pretty quick pivot to move into the surfing after that.
Yeah. Where did you start surfing?
In Charleston. Yeah, Isle Palms.
Did you go to high school at Wando?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Wando.
So you grew up with all the crew?
Yeah, so like Moultrie and then Wando. So like the whole crew over there, the Gregorys, Andrew, Alex. Alex is still one of my best friends, but we grew up together. Carter, Grayson, all those guys on that side of town. Norman, Andrew, Gregory, that whole crew.
Yeah. Cool. I think we first met probably just doing surf contests.
Yeah, definitely. Over at the ESA.
Yeah.
The ESA contest. And those are super fun.
Yeah.
I remember Alex's maybe the Gregory's, I would always have a beach house over there on like just south of the washout or north of the washout. So we would always, that whole crew would go over there and just like park it at the beach all weekend. Just go down to the contest all day and have a good time.
So where are we right now? Like we're in Marlboro County?
Marlboro County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your family this is where your family...
Yeah, my whole family's from here. When I was younger, I want to say like maybe 4th or 5th grade, we moved to Charleston. My dad did, so he was kind of the first one to move away from here. Now we're back here, but so my whole family's from here. Okay. Drake, South Carolina.
Drake, yeah. Perfect. That works out. And then so the shop here, how many square feet are we in? Tell me about this place where we're at today.
So this is like maybe 10 or 12,000 square feet, the main shop, and then there's three buildings. So they're all varying ages, as far back as 70, 80 years old, and then newer as we get to the front of the building. Yeah.
And it originally, you were saying, was cotton and wood, or?
Yeah, so the building that we're in now with the boats is an old wood veneer mill.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing we were talking about, my brother and I, was like me and all my friends, we talk about what boats we want to buy. No one's talking about the boats we're going to build. So how did you get into that?
Well, I got really the same way. I wanted a boat that I couldn't afford, and I thought by building it it'd be cheaper, and that's not the case. I could have had a whole fleet of boats by the time I built myself one boat, so that didn't really work out that way. But that's the same way I got into it. I just wanted a nice boat, and I liked working with my hands, and I was in college and didn't know what to do, what I wanted to do in my life. Naively, I was like, you know what, I'll build boats.
How does that start? Like, what was the first step for that?
So when I was in college, I maybe in my senior year of college, I was like, okay, I think I might want to do this boat thing. Like maybe I want to build boats. And I didn't really have a good stepping stone. I just had this idea. And my brother had this business that he started in high school, pressure washing these semi trucks in parking lots on the weekends. And so we were out there with him one weekend doing that. And he had an engineer come out to look at this pressure washing gun that he had designed. And me and Nate, the engineer, were standing there, and he was like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your deal? And I was like, man, I really want to build boats. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, but I don't have a clue where to start. And he goes, well, I used to back engineer all the boats at one of the boat manufacturing places here. And so, and I know somebody that might be able to help you out, like just teach you and get you started. So that was kind of like my stepping stone. It was just by pure luck that happened. That was what allowed me to make the next step into that.
So did that guy help?
Yeah, he did. So he hooked me up with a guy that worked at a boat place in Charleston, and then would work, like kind of did his own thing at home or whatever, and got me in touch with him. And I kind of told him, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And he said, yeah, I think I can help you out. Like, if you want to come, you can work with Nate, who's the engineer, and you kind of design something you want. I'll help you, kind of get started on it and just start building a boat, I guess. And kind of told him that I wanted to have a production boat, and this is kind of what I wanted. So Nate and I kind of designed what we wanted. And then the other guy, Seth, and I started putting it together. A little fun story within that. We put the whole first one together and got it all like laid out, like the wood jig system, and we put some battens on it to like see the lines on it. And we realized it was awful, like unusable. It was terrible. It was not what we wanted. So we took the whole thing and threw it away and started from scratch and built another boat in the computer, and then built the jig system. And then over the course of I want to say like a year or two, he helped me like get this thing to like a place where you could make a mold off of it, or like put a motor on it and run it. And so we got there with it, and we were kind of getting ready to go test it and put a motor on it and run it. And the whole time I was working with Seth, he had cancer. And so he was fighting that. And then as we got to the point where we were going to run the boat and like potentially make a mold, he died from the cancer. So like that was tough.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he kind of taught me like everything I knew to that point. He passed, and he was kind of like my guide to do this. And so for a little bit there, we were just stuck. Like, what do I do? I don't know what the next step is. I don't know how to do the next step. So we just kept, you know, pushing forward on, you know, just little things like this is what we're going to do next. So we ran the boat and figured out if everything was good, made a couple changes, and then decided we were ready to make a mold for the hull, which we had no idea how to do. And so I contacted, my whole story is about people that have been helpful to me. Yeah. That's how I got where I am. So back to that, I contacted this guy to buy a piece of spray equipment to spray like gel coat or primer or whatever. And I didn't know what I needed. I just found this number, and I was like, I think this is what I need. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Up until I started the boats, the only thing I'd ever done is like surfboard repair. And so this guy, Tom, he's like, yeah, I'll come out there. I work the Charleston area. I'll come out and see what you need. And he came, I had this little shop in North Charleston, like this tiny little thing. And he was like, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'll sell you the system, but it's just it's too much for you. Like, you don't need it.
Like, it was too much.
It's too big. Like,
right.
It was just like, I didn't need this whole system. Mm-hmm. It was too expensive for what I needed. And he was like, I can like help you out with a used one or whatever. And so he did. And he actually became like a super close friend, like to this day. And so what I was doing then was, at that point, we had the little shop in North Charleston. I had a full-time job, like being a handyman. Okay. So like I would work all day long, and then I would go at night. I'd go home and like take a nap, and then I'd go at night at like 5 or 6 o'clock over to this little shop and just like work on my boat project. And Tom, when he was in town visiting customers, would come help me at night just because he was bored, and he's a woodworker by trade. And he kind of knew like the ins and outs, like how stuff's done, because he spent, you know, all day, every day in boat places. So he would come help me. So that was like 3 or 4 years of just like making the hull like mold, and making the deck, and like making all the molds for all the stuff. And then after maybe like, it probably took 4 to 5 years between Seth died until when we were ready, had all the molds we would need to like make a boat. And that's when my brother and I were like, all right, we're going to like put a deadline on this thing.
Right.
Like we're going to build a boat, and like we're going to put a deadline on ourselves, and we're going to make it happen. I never put a deadline on myself after that one, because it was brutal. It was like 4 months of like 18-hour days, wow, just grinding to build this boat. And we didn't have a clue what we were doing. Right. So that was in 2016 maybe. So we built this boat for this event, and that took us everything we had. Right. You know, the money, the time, everything we had. And we got this thing done, and we were just hoping and praying that somebody would buy one, because we'd both like, you know, had a full-time job. My brother had his business, and like we wanted to do this boat thing. Yeah. And so we finally like got that boat put together and like took it to a show in Charleston, the Taylor's Ball, which Paul Puckett, like the Flood Tide guys, put on. Yeah, yeah. Every year. So that was like our premiere thing, and it was like a full-blown prototype boat. But that was I guess like the story of how we got to like a finished boat. Right. Yeah. And had that boat floated and performed? Well, so we built that boat. Funny story about getting that boat done. Like, we were literally taking like 1 hour sleep breaks like every 3 or 4 hours for 5 days. Like, wow. Just to get this thing done. Like working in our backyard under a tent all night long to build this boat. And like, it was a prototype for sure. Mm-hmm. The day, like an hour before we were supposed to be to the show, we built these like prototype rod hangers, because the boat needed a place to store rods. And like, we just wanted something to be there to show people like that there was rod storage, but it was completely like, you know, duct tape and bubble gum. And I took I took a screw and went to screw it in the thing, and I screwed the screw straight through the side of the boat, like from the inside to the outside, like screws stick out of the side of the boat an hour before we had to be at this event to like show the boat for the first time. So we like pull the screw out, and we put the boat on the trailer, and the screw hole was behind the fender cover on the thing, so you couldn't see it.
You just ran with that.
Yeah, we just ran with it. We were like, dude, we don't have time.
Yeah.
I took it to the show, and we had the rod holder in there, and the second guy who walked up just walks up and goes, man, this thing's nice, and grabbed the rod holder and just ripped it straight out of the boat. We were like, oh, man. It's just a prototype. It's just a prototype.
I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to that, like, we took it to that show. We'd never put it in the water before to test it. And the next day we like wind tested it, and it floated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the very first boat, does some of your boats still have that same, like any of the same attributes to it, or y'all?
Not really. So we built like, I want to say 9 or 10 of like the original boats. And then we went back and redesigned the whole thing. The only thing we kept was the console. So like everything other than the console and the new boats is different. Yeah.
From that time, so your brother joined on, or
Mhm.
when did he kind of join?
He kind of, so I guess I can back up a little bit. So like he had that business. He started the pressure washing thing where we met the engineer that he kept running until a few years ago. So that was like our way to fund the project. Like, how are we going to fund this thing? Because it's an expensive endeavor. So he was running his thing and funding, helping fund this business while I was working a full-time job to just go work at night to like actually build the thing. And then in 2016, when we decided like, okay, we're going to put a time on ourselves, we're going to do this, he jumped in and we were both full throttle to like get the boat done.
Who do you feel, did anyone give you your first big break, or like a client who's like believed in you that?
Yeah. So there's a guy, he's in Charleston, his name's Doug. We were all still good buddies, but we fished together a bunch, and he knew about the project, and we like I said, we built that first boat, and we didn't have any sold or we didn't know what was next. We just knew we wanted to get one done and like just show something to everybody. And we showed that boat at the event. A couple days later, Doug called me and was like, hey man, I'm just getting off work. I want to go ride a new boat. It's like, sweet, let's do it. And we went out and we got done. He's like, I'm going to buy one. I want to buy the first one. I was like, man, you're amazing. So Doug bought the first one from us, and we built that boat 2000 into 2016, 2017. We built that boat for Doug, and then the second boat we built was from one of my best friends, Johnny. He's a fishing guide. We built for him, and it just kind of spread from there. Started local, and up to now, we're like sending boats to South Texas, South Florida, New Jersey, everywhere.
Yeah. Do you have a specific amount of boats you're building a year, or just varies on the clients?
It kind of varies we try and stay in that like 13 to maybe 16 range. Just that's kind of what we feel comfortable with from a volume standpoint to keep the quality where we want it. And that number will vary depending on if we've got 2 different models. So if we're building more of the smaller boats, more of the bigger boats, the number kind of varies, but we're trying to stay in that like 13 to 16 range.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with your boats, was there something you were trying to get out of the boat once that, this something that's unique to you guys?
Yeah. So a few things. The main thing is we kind of felt like on the technology side of things was lagging. We're like, there's all these great products out there and great materials and great resins that nobody was implementing because it's just hard. Like if you're manufacturing something, it's hard to change. Like if you've got 100 guys working for you, it's hard to change a process. And there's a lot of engineers and designers and guys out there that they're, spend their life making these fabrics or like engineering this cool stuff. And it's hard for them to get in the door in big manufacturing facilities for them to implement it. And for us, we were so small, and we came at it with this approach where we said, hey, we want to build the best boat we can. What are the materials? What's the process? What should we be doing? So we went at it that way. And when we started asking that question, there's a lot of those guys that wanted to help, and we were open to it. We're like, tell us what we need to do. Like, we'll try the prototype stuff. We'll try the cool material. We want to use it. And so as soon as we opened the door to that, we had all kinds of like cool exotic materials and processes that are going to make the boat lighter and faster and stronger.
And do you feel like you finally landed on a product that you think's the best in the industry?
Well, we're always changing. I mean, still to this day, we've got the same thing. We just do such slow production volume that we still have all these, distributors and manufacturers that come to us with the newest of the new. And because the next boat we build, we can put it in there and try it. Or if I want to build myself a demo boat or whatever, we can put it in there and try it and see. And so we're always making the boats better. We can make that pivot, and it's easy for us because of our low production.
And I guess looking back, it was always the goal to build skiffs? Was that kind of where your heart and mind was with boats, or is that just kind of what you fell into?
Yeah, I think I like the skiffs because it's such a niche market, and like, there's not to say there's not a bunch of great bay boats out there, but when people go shopping for a 26-foot bay boat, they might be looking for a lot of cushions or a stereo system or like a certain color. With the skiffs, there's a diehard community, and most people know what they want, and they can tell. It's like a surfboard. Like, people can tell the minute little differences in the boat. Like, they can tell if it's 50 pounds heavy or 50 pounds lighter. So there's that space to innovate, and there's the consumers out there that can understand it, that know what you're doing, instead of you just having a sales pitch and saying, oh, this one's 100 pounds lighter, and somebody's like, cool, how many cushions are on it?
Right.
Whereas the skiff, they know exactly what they want, and they can feel it. It's like having a great surfboard. You can tell the difference between 50 pounds, 100 pounds, what the boat's doing when it's turning, how the boat's going through waves, how it does when you're pulling it, all that stuff you can tell. So to have that space to innovate and make all that stuff and have people respond to it, that's what drew me to it, and still the reason I enjoy it.
Yeah. Have you thought about ever getting into surfboards?
Man, I've never even shaped a surfboard.
Yeah.
Which is, I think about doing it, but I've never done it. It'd be fun, but I've never really had the urge to get into it. I guess I feel like I'm funny about the surfboards I like, mm-hmm. and I think it would take me so many surfboards just making myself to get to one where I was like, this is better than the one I could go buy off the shelf, that I don't know if it will be worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's so many great shapers. It's like,
there is, man. I mean, it's like, it's hard to put the hours in that they put in to replicate that. I'd be better just building a boat and buying a great surfboard.
Yeah.
I would be trying to shape a great surfboard.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
So when we were taking a tour through here, y'all have, what is that, like, cooker back there, that big, you said you and your brother built it?
Yeah. You want to get into the engineering?
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit.
Okay, cool. All right, so the goal with skiffs is mainly weight. So like, what you want to do is get weight out of the boat, because the lighter the boat, the less the boat can draft, the easier it is to pull. There's a lot of other stuff that revolves around that, and it's all a give and a take. Like, you want the boat to ride good in rough water. You want it to be quiet. You want it to be easy to pull. You want it to float in shallow water. You want it to ride well in rough water. So like, there's all these give and takes, but like, the main thing is weight. So our goal has always been to, get the weight out of there and have something that has structural integrity. So the main way to achieve that is with laminates. So like, the resins and your reinforcements, like the carbon fiber and the foam cores and all that stuff, and how you build the boat as a system with all of those materials. So what we found is that there's a process called vacuum infusion, which is where you essentially take all of your like your materials that are dry, like your foam core, your carbon fiber reinforcements, and you put them on a mold dry, and you put a vacuum bag on it, suck all the air out of it, and then you've got an atmosphere of pressure pushing down on that laminate stack. And so when you introduce resin into that, it's just filling the voids. So like the fabric that needs to absorb resin, the air voids in there, it's just filling those voids instead of having excess resin, which adds weight. And so without having that excess resin, you get a stronger laminate and you get a lighter laminate. So when we do that, we need to put it in that. We built an oven to put the parts in the oven while they're still in the mold so it can post-cure, which is essentially like getting it up to a temperature that it would never get to out in the wild. So you get all the shrinking out of the way while the laminate's still green. So it's done shrinking, so you're not going to get any like print through when it's been in the sun, like in South Florida, and it's shrunk this way instead of this way because it's still, the A side's still in the mold, so you shrink it this way. So whatever finish comes out of the mold, it's always going to look like that. And then and if you do that while the laminate's still green, which is like a 10-day period after you've put hardener in the resin, basically, it's going to be a stronger resin matrix. So you get a stronger part. It's like that just allows us to take more reinforcements out and get weight out of the boat by doing that. So the oven is something we built specifically to, reach a certain temperature for 8 hours.
What is that temperature?
So gel coat, which is like the outer coating on the boat's kind of like the weak point, and gel coat starts to basically malfunction at like 165 or 170. So what we're going to do is, bump the temperature up slowly and bring it back down slowly. And that way, it's never going to get that hot out in the sun. So that way we've cured it as much as it can ever cure at that point, while the resin still in the green period. So we get that full cure and you get a stronger resin matrix out of it.
Is anyone building boats like you guys?
I don't know if anyone like in my world's building them with the post-curing process and all that stuff. I would say it's more of like from the aerospace world. You'd see more of that, aerospace manufacturing. I'm sure there's people out there that do it. I just don't know anyone's like doing that process just to build like just a normal boat.
Right. Gotcha.
Like America's Cup racing sailboats, like offshore racing boats, all that stuff. They're doing that same process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the clients come and did they just find you through, was it like word of mouth or is it just?
Yeah, mostly word of mouth, social media, stuff like that. They'll find us, on the internet or whatever. And all of our boats are built to order. We don't build any boats for inventory. So people come to us and, get a spot on the list. And when their spot comes, most guys will come here and we spec the whole boat out, talk about all the custom stuff they want, and we build the boat just for them.
Cool. And then I guess we'll transition a little bit. We'll just like get into a bit of travel. So where's been your favorite spot to go surf lately?
So my wife and I try and go to Panama every winter, like in February or March or April, Bocas del Toro. That's kind of our spot lately.
Yeah. Is it, I guess the crowd's not as bad there, or it's just?
I feel like the crowds aren't as bad, and like, I don't know, have you guys been there?
Yeah, Bryant's been.
Yeah. I feel like it's got more of like, at least the main beach break there is more like, you see a lot of East Coast guys in the water, like Hatteras guys or people from Jersey or people from even Charleston, just because the waves it's a beach break, short period wind swell. And it's heavy. So yeah, I see a bunch of guys up there and it's just not as crowded.
Yeah. Cool. And then y'all been going out west in the summers?
Hey, we try and go out west, like, early summer and go trout fishing and get out of the heat for a little bit. And ride bikes and do all that.
And then, I guess another thing is what y'all been traveling in.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about that truck.
So when my wife and I first met, I kind of had this like dream that I wanted this like expedition camper thing. And it was always a little bit like like out there. But a few years ago, we kind of got to a point where it was like, man, I think I really want to build this thing. I like building stuff, obviously, and it just made sense to build one versus buy one. So we went the path of building one, which I don't know if that worked out in the end either, from the time and money aspect. But we built that thing. It took like 2 years in total to do it.
And what is it? It's a Ford
F550, like a chassis cab that we built, like a full one-piece monocoque habitat that goes on the back of it, permanently mounted and like integrated into the cab on the back of the truck.
And I get you use the same construction and ways you build the boats to build that, right?
Yeah, so we did the same method as we build the boats to build that. And the reason a lot of the in the camping world, a lot of the campers and stuff are not really heavy duty, and they're not going to last like off road or banging down dirt roads or driving on the beach and all that stuff. So I wanted something that was more like a boat, like with boat components and like hard, full fiberglass shell and all that stuff. So that's how we ended up building it, like a boat instead of like a camper.
Have you ever been able to drive anywhere and someone not comment on it?
That might be the hardest part of having it. My wife Bree has got this like funny roll of videos of people approaching me at the gas stations. Like every time we stop somewhere, she just learns off in the distance and she's filming all these interactions at the gas station. So we've got a list of like the top 5 asks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that we usually take bets on what they're gonna ask when they pull up.
Do you just come up with different stuff
For the questions?
Yeah, answers. Like you're just like,
well, do you want to hear some of them?
yeah.
All right. So like the weirdest one that I never thought I would get was how much does it cost?
Yeah.
How much did it cost? Which I usually deflect by saying I built it.
Right.
That usually gets me out of that situation because they're just that the nature of that vehicle is really expensive.
Yeah.
I don't want to just I don't want to tell people
It's private.
Yeah, it's private, which is weird. I don't know what I said, but the you can go anywhere in that. That's a big one. And then how do you change the tires?
Yeah. I would probably ask that one.
Yeah, how do you change the tires? Oh man, is that a camper? All that stuff. Those are some big tires. A lot of gas mileage. That's a big one too.
Yeah,
What's the gas mileage on that thing?
It is cool though. It's all solar, right?
Yeah. So the whole thing is built to like basically be off grid. So our main issue that we found with like a normal camper or a van or something was that you had to plug it up. Like you had to make a reservation somewhere and take it there and plug it up, and like you're parked 5 feet from the next person, like tic-tacs all down the road, and that's just not how we wanted the vacation. And so like the whole thing is powered off of solar electric, and so it charges from the truck running, and the whole roof's a solar array, like commercial grade solar panels. So it's always charging during the day. And then everything in the truck runs off the lithium battery bank. So like climate control, it's got central air, heat, everything in the refrigerator, all the stuff runs off electricity. And it's got a little diesel furnace that heats coolant. It's called hydronic heating, that heats our hot water and our hot air. So that's the only thing that doesn't run off of electric solar. So no generator, no propane, none of that stuff. So we spent 45 days in it and never plugged it up. It's got 100 gallons of fresh water and like a full reverse osmosis UV light filter system on it for the water. So we just put water in and keep driving.
Yeah, that's amazing. Where out west have y'all been going?
We usually go, so we got into trout fishing a little bit just because it had a boat involved, really. Like, how can we do something else with a boat?
Right.
So my wife and I built a drift boat like in our spare time, maybe 3 years ago, and we took it out there and we leave it in Montana.
Okay.
So we usually go out there and we have a handful of friends that are out there, and we'll just stay in that area and we'll kind of up around. Fishing's good, or go ride bikes.
Yeah. How'd you and your wife meet?
Through the boats.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people in my life that are super good friends, and that's one thing the boats have brought me, is a lot of good friends, and brought my wife into my life. And I still continue to meet a lot of great people through the boat. So even if I wasn't making a living off of it, it's still been a great thing because I've met a bunch of great people through it.
Thomas Brothers Productions. If you've been enjoying the podcast or the videos we've been making through it, it's an extension of our video production company that we've been creating for the past 15 years. So if you have a brand, company, or a product, we make high-end commercials, storytelling documentaries, and compelling product videos that help your brand grow or get your story out there. So from where you started, it sounds like you didn't know much, or are you just underplaying all of this, or?
I didn't know anything. I literally didn't know anything. Like when I was in college, like I had that handyman job. That was the first time I was, I grew up here and my granddad was Mr. Do It Yourself. Like we were not getting someone to fix it. We were fixing it. And he had a solution for everything.
Right.
So I had a lot of that as a child, but when I was in college, I didn't, until I got that job being a handyman, like I didn't really know the ins and outs. Like I wouldn't be able to fix a light socket at your house until then. And with the fiberglass and stuff, I didn't have a clue. Like I'd never shaped a surfboard. I'd done ding repair. Like my first job as a kid was ding repair. Right. So that's the only thing I'd ever done. I didn't have a clue. So I started the boat stuff and still didn't know what I was doing, and had Seth, to help me out. But after that, I found with a lot of things in life, number one, you can do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I like to read, and I'm not afraid of some technical data sheet or something like that, and I'll dive into that. But the other side of that is, once you've exhausted that resource, just ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Go into it prepared, and having a background in what you're going to ask the question about, because you've done some legwork already. But if you ask for help, people will fall over themselves to help you. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've gotten to where I am, is just asking for help. My whole family helps all the time. Been behind us the whole time to help us do this. And the same thing with all the people, like the manufacturers, distributors, and just say, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And
right.
People fall over themselves.
Yeah.
It's that's how I, learned all that stuff, along with lots of reading.
Yeah. Yeah. When we were walking through the shop, I was like, dude, I think Wilds is like some nerd genius or something, because you know so much about it. So I guess it's just like learning.
And like the way I like to fix things, and I like to make things better, and the boats are like my vehicle for that right now. So that involves just understanding how it's all working to make it better. So a lot of, for me at least, like again, reading and deep diving and asking a ton of people the same question and getting the responses, and like getting all this intel to figure out how it all works. And
what are you most proud of about these boats as of now?
I'm just happy they're at a point now where like I feel like I could put them next to anything out there, and it looks better when it's sitting next to it.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is that I get a lot of owners that have had a lot of boats and really understand what makes the boat great, and they want the boat because of that. And that's the best part. When I get those guys, I have to believe it's like being a surfboard shaper, like for a CT guy, when they're like, I want that board. It's the same feeling when I get fishing guys that have been doing it for 30 years, and they're really particular, and they understand what they want. And they can go for a ride in the boat and feel it immediately, feel the difference. That's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's when people can, because I can, I spend my whole life in boats, so and I've spent a lot of hours driving, so I can feel, I can go on the boat and feel what it's doing and understand why it's doing that. And then when I get people that can also do that, that's nice.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine that. Yeah. Like the idea of, I don't know, comparing that to like being a shaper and CT guy, like the top of the top, want your product.
Right.
That's,
it's that's what feels good.
Yeah.
Like when you've got the fit and the finish there, and you've got the performance there, and both of those things combined to make a great product. So you've got those guys that are super dialed in, and then you've also got guys that just want like the nicest of the nice stuff, and I can get both of those people to come in and buy the boat. That makes me happy.
Yeah. How many boats do you have out there right now?
85.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do most of them sit in a certain part of the country or world, or are they all over the place?
All over the place. So like, I guess I should back up on that. The boat is really niche specific to what people would use it for. It wouldn't be a boat that somebody would buy to like go out with their family every weekend. That most people would have a boat for that, and then their fishing boat.
Right.
So there's specific areas where you would use this boat, that being like all the way, some guys up in New England for certain fisheries. And then as you get into like North Carolina, Georgia, all of Florida, Louisiana, Texas, that's kind of where you see that kind of boat or need this kind of boat.
Okay.
So that's where most of them are. And I do have a couple boats that people have on yachts that travel around the world, and they leave them on the front as a tender and use them like that. So
yeah,
that's another cool thing too.
Right. That's cool. How did that come to you through someone was like, this is what I want to do? Or did it like, how did you find those kind of clients? Or
they usually, I guess they come to us. I like to believe that the fit and finish, the quality of the boat is kind of matching, what a super high-end yacht finish or aesthetic would look like. So that's easy for them to, say, hey, I'm going to match this with this.
Yeah.
I don't want a cheap boat on the front of the expensive boat.
Right.
Yeah.
We, Bryant's wife is from Texas and had some friends come to town, and the dude was wearing a Drake hat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And he just was a fan.
Nice.
They were like, Brian was like, do you know why? I was like, no. But
yeah.
So that's cool,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, just to see it out there.
Yeah, it's nice. It's cool when people know about it. You walk into a fly shop out west or someone sees your hat, like, that's cool, and kind of relate and talk about it. Yeah. The fishing industry, the fly fishing world's so small, like everybody knows everybody, so it's not like it's a big industry to be in.
Right. When you were a kid, were you surfing before fishing, or were you doing that kind of at the same time?
Just surfing.
Yeah.
Surfing and I wake skated a bunch.
Okay.
But I found the fishing in high school, late high school, maybe even in college. And like my whole life, no one in my family really fished, and fishing as I knew it was like going out in the boat, cracking a beer and dropping a line down and just waiting for something to happen. And that was not my deal. I was not doing that. I needed activity, whether it was behind the boat or surfing or whatever it was. I was too go for that. And then someone took me fishing the first time, like sight fishing, and I saw the fish in the water, and I realized like, oh wow, this is like hunting. Like, this is completely different than like dropping the line out there, and you have your team, like you got somebody that's got to push you around, and you're both looking for the fish, and someone's got to put the boat in the right place, and you got to put the fly in the right place, and you can manipulate the fish, with the fly. And I guess that's what drew me into it. And it's so much, I think there's so many parallels to like the fly fishing with surfing, in that I guess the part I like about it is you're always looking at the tide, you're always looking at the conditions, you're always looking at the wind, like what's the pressure doing, what's the weather doing. So like the same thing as surfing, like you're looking at the swell height, you're looking at the time, you're looking at the interval, you're looking at the direction, all that stuff to like pick a spot to go there and be there for that time to try and make that thing happen, whether it's catch a wave or catch a fish. Like it's kind of the same thing. So I think that's what draws me to both.
Spend most of your time fishing back home in Charleston, or yeah,
most of the time. We go to the Keys and stuff and go travel, to Mexico and fish a little bit, but most of it's in Charleston.
Yeah. Do you find yourself going to the Northeast or to Texas a good bit to like, I don't know, kind of see what's going on just for when people are buying the boats so that you can kind of talk about it? Or
yeah, they're like the different regions have different needs for a boat. Right. So I try and go to those places and fish and just understand how they're using the boat, why they're using the boat that way, and what they might need, for that region,
Right.
to just, and how they're using and how they're fishing, because that can make a big difference on, what decisions I decide to make when we design a boat.
Right.
Because as you and I were talking about when we were walking through the shop, it's not like a surfboard where you can shape it into like a different shape every time. Like, you're kind of stuck with these certain dimensions that you can't change just from manufacturing side of things. So trying to design something that you can change a little or not have to change at all to work in all these different places is key. And understanding how the fishing and what the boat needs to do for all those different places is how you can do that.
Right. Is there a certain motor that you're using mostly for the boats, or is it?
So all the motor stuff goes back to the weight. And so what we're always looking at is basically a weight to power ratio. Like, what's the lightest motor we can get with the most power? And like, you start getting diminishing returns. You start adding horsepower, but you start adding more weight than you are horsepower, so you're getting diminishing returns. So we use the Yamahas mostly for the bigger boat, and then the smaller boat, there's a bunch of different lighter weight options. But
Yeah.
and again, it depends on the region too. how they're gonna use the boat, what they're using it for, and how it's gonna affect the boat. So.
Yeah. Changing questions totally, but what was the best swell you got this fall?
Oh man, probably up in the Outer Banks, and I don't even know what it was. Maybe the later storm. Do you remember the name of it?
I'm so bad with the names.
I don't remember either.
I just remember the session.
It was like the last hurricane swell. I don't know what it was, but it was just like maybe 3 days of great surf, and like, I guess it must have been like late October, beginning of November. But me and my wife Bree and our friend Jackson, his wife Emily, were in town from Montana. So we took our big truck, and they've got a camper on their truck, and we just drove to Outer Banks and surfed. It was just 3 days of like calm, clean, awesome waves. And we could drive on the beach, or park the truck on the beach all day and just surfed like sun up to sundown. It's good all day. I feel like sometimes you can go and you might get like a good morning session, a good evening session, but very rarely can you just surf all day. And that was at least 2 days of just surfing all day long. Yeah. So that was probably the best one this fall.
Is the truck, when you get those sessions, and then with the truck, are you like, this is exactly what I envisioned?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like last time we had the truck parked on the beach, like up on the bluff in the sand, and there's, you're just out surfing overhead glassy waves, and you look back and you're like, man, this is out of a magazine. Like, I couldn't have drawn this up if I tried to when I was a kid. This is where I wanted to be, like right here.
When you started doing the boats, did you imagine that you would move it out here one day? Was that like the final goal?
Never.
Yeah.
never. I really never thought I'd end up back here, but the way it kind of worked out, we just kept needing more and more space, and we had the space, and it's home, and we have the space, and it's quiet. It's nice. There's not distractions. I don't think I'd get as much done in Charleston.
Yeah.
There's too many distractions, whether it's food or surf or it's a skate park or whatever it is. So
yeah,
I can be here and get my stuff done, and I'm close enough and to get anywhere I want to be to go surf or go fish.
What surfboards are you riding right now?
Oh man, I'm gonna have a hard time saying this, but I got an Almeric, a free scrubber twin fin.
Yeah, you did.
I did, and I feel bad because I've been on the Parrot program my whole life, but I just wanted to try something different.
Yeah, it goes.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's a great surfboard.
When it's like when there's tubes and Hatteras, or will you still be riding that? Or
I ride it to like head high, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit overhead if it's not like crazy punchy, but it's so versatile. Like, you can ride it waist high to overhead, and I've never ridden that twin fin that's so like performance driven as that thing, where I can surf it like a thruster. Yeah, and it's still got the speed and all the great things that a twin fin has.
Right.
But no, when it gets bigger, I've got like a 6'3" with like a pintail.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I feel like I'll see you out surfing, and you're like, I feel like you always surf really good, like real proper, and like, and I'm like, damn it, I'm like out at the beach every day, and I wonder if it's like just having more access to Outer Banks where you're like surfing quality surf.
Dude, I think it's just the grass is greener on the other side because I feel like a kook.
Really? Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's
I'm
always
looking
like,
at you, I'm looking at y'all and y'all are ripping. I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I doing wrong?
right. Maybe it's just like what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Who knows? Well, we need to go to somewhere warm soon.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you done Puerto Rico at all?
I did. So I used to go with Angelo all the time.
Yeah.
Number one is a lot of rights,
Right. That's true.
and two, it can be kind of crowded.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the time to like dive into maybe some places there that aren't as crowded.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also like kind of like you were saying with Panama. You can't really get that like true beach break feel in Puerto Rico. It's like,
No. It's just growing up on the East Coast and like Hatteras and even Folly, like that thumping beach break feel is so hard to beat.
Right.
Yeah.
We were in Colorado's end of August, and it just was like, put me at a beach break with kind of a shorter.
Oh
like,
my God.
fast
I need 8-second swell period.
Yeah, I know, like too much wave, and I'm like, I don't know actually what to do. With
Right. I
too
need
much.
8-second swell period and like a vertical drop beach.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Oh yeah, I like this though. Who was some of the guys you were looking at growing up?
Oh, that's a good one. Guys like Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kai.
Mm.
Kai actually taught me. I learned how to surf on my own, but Kai, like, maybe the first year I was surfing, Kai like taught me how to surf.
Okay.
Like
cool.
the fundamentals, like gave me the right board and taught me how to surf. So yeah, Richard, Kai. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, all the guys at the beach.
Yeah, I feel like
Andrew.
Yeah. Trevor.
Peyton, Trevor, all those guys rip. Jay. I saw Jay surfing the other day. I haven't seen Jay in a while, but yeah.
I feel like
Guy Busey.
I feel like we looked up to a bunch of guys who like absolutely rip.
Yeah.
And then our generation surf really good too. And then it kind of like
there's a missing spot. And
yeah.
like I worked at Parrot from when I could drive. So like 15 years old until essentially like my senior year of college, I worked at Parrot, and like there was after maybe our generation, maybe guys like a year younger, there's like a stop.
Yeah.
Like there was no crew, no 16-year-old guys at the beach, like whole group of people, none of that. There was a complete gap.
I mean, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Like it, and I even saw it working at Parrot. Like you just didn't see those kids coming in. Like there's not a group of rowdy kids coming in wreaking havoc.
Right. Is there like as big of a surf culture? Is there that same type of group of people in the fly fishing world in Charleston? Like
yeah.
Even,
maybe more so.
Right.
I think the thing I've learned from Charleston versus like everywhere else is we have these like 6-foot tides every 6.5 hours, and you can only fish like 3 hours, maybe 4 hours around each tide. So you have this dead zone between the tides where like everyone like gets off the water and goes and has a beer or gets lunch or hangs out or whatever. So you got all this like hang time built in versus like maybe say like South Florida or something where you wake up at dawn and fish until it gets dark.
Yeah.
Everybody's whooped. So like I think Charleston has a great fishing community because of that.
Okay.
That they've there's like this in between time that everybody hangs.
Really no one else has the same environment like Charleston, right?
It's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Maybe like you can say like, Buford,
right,
Georgia, places that are close, but our area is pretty unique and fishing's pretty dang good.
I feel like I lose a lot of friends to fishing like every year.
Well,
like,
I mean, there's just no physical, there's not, I'm not going to say no, but because pulling the boat can be tough.
Yeah.
But the physical activity is just so much lower. I mean, I feel like even me being over 30, like, I'm like, oh man, I'm sore. Like I'm tired. Like I'm worn out from surfing.
Right.
And you have to do a lot of like extra stuff that I didn't have to do 10 years ago to like feel like I'm surfing good and like able to surf all day or, paddle or whatever. You have to do some extracurricular activities to stay there.
Yeah, that's valid.
And fishing, you don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So you can drink beer and eat nachos.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah.
It might be time for me to really start fishing a lot,
Maybe.
because I'm like hurting like crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You should go see Ryan.
I know. What do you want to see Drake boats become, or what's your envision for the future?
So I'm really happy with where we're at, like production wise now with the numbers. My whole goal with making this business was to have a business where I could go surf and go fishing when I wanted to. Now, does that happen all the time? Does it work out? No, but you know, it's been almost 10 years of doing it, and I can take some time to go surf if I want to go surf, which is when I look back and assess what were my goals out of this, that was, you know, one of the top ones was to just be able to have the time to go surf when I wanted to surf and go fish when the fishing was good. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot with that. And as far as the boats go, you know, I like innovating and changing them and making them better. So we're always doing a little bit of that and working on, you know, different boats, new boats and stuff that's going to make somebody else's fishing easier or better.
Thanks for showing us around and like giving us your time. A lot of people have reached out and like wanted to hear your story. So I think people are stoked to learn and hear about all
That's
this.
cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys came up and could like check it, see everything, and kind of see how we do things, and might help to give you a little introspect on, you know, how it's made, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and then I feel like we text a lot about maybe like jumping on a swell together. So like, let's try to make it actually happen soon.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
like I
me
said
too.
before we started, I'm Jones.
Right, I am too. Cool. Well, appreciate it.
Thank y'all.